The unusual passenger. The interstellar freighter Grave March moved slowly through space near the outer border of Sector 17. Inside, hundreds of passengers sat quietly in their seats. Most of them were traders, miners, or transport workers returning from duty. Among them was a human man, sitting alone near the back. He wore a dark jacket with a hood up, face half covered by shadow. Nobody had noticed him much. Not until now alien officer Thalexa entered the passenger bay with two assistants. Her tall purple frame stood out among the crowd. She wore a tight black uniform and silver armor plates on her shoulders. Her sharp, yellow eyes moved fast, scanning each traveler. Her job was to inspect everyone before they reached the next station. She had done it 100 times before. It was always routine, always boring. But this time, something felt different. As Thalexa walked past the rows of passengers, her eyes locked on the human. He didn't move, didn't blink, but something on his side caught her attention. A strange bulge under his jacket, just above his hip. Too smooth to be a weapon, but too firm to be normal. She stopped, pointed at him. "You, stand up." The human slowly stood. He was tall and looked strong but tired. His eyes were calm and serious. "Open your jacket now," Thalexa said in a sharp voice. The man hesitated. His hand stayed close to the bulge. "I can't do that," he said quietly. "Wrong answer," Thalexa growled. Her assistants raised their stun rifles. The human raised his hands slowly but made no move to escape. Everyone else in the room went silent. All eyes were on them now. Thalexa stepped closer. Her scanner device activated with a soft beep. She aimed it at the bulge. The moment the beam touched his side, the device began to flicker. Then it made a strange whine. Sparks flew from it. She stepped back. "What is this?" she hissed. The man looked down at his side. The bulge moved slightly. A soft sound came from inside, almost like a small cry. Thalexa's face changed. That was no weapon. That was no tech. That sounded alive. She reached forward, but the man stepped back once. Just one step. Still not running. Still calm. But protecting Thalexa narrowed her eyes. She had seen many smugglers in her time. Some carried rare gems. Others hid banned tech. But none of them looked like this man. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for whatever he was hiding. "Arrest him," she ordered. The assistants moved forward and cuffed the man. He didn't resist, just looked straight into Thalexa's eyes and said, "You don't understand what you're doing. We'll see," she replied coldly. The human was taken to the security room. Thalexa followed, eyes still on his side where the bulge now pressed harder under the jacket. It was moving again. Not much, just enough to remind her that something living was hiding under that cloth. Inside the small metal room, the human was forced into a chair. He stayed silent. Thalexa paced in front of him. "You're carrying something illegal," she said. "Tell me what it is, and I might not throw you into cryo for the next 10 years. He shook his head slowly. "You'll hurt it if I tell you," he replied. "So it is alive." Thalexa snapped. The human didn't speak again. She stepped back and turned on the room's scanner walls. Blue light filled the chamber. The scan passed over the man's body. On the screen, the bulge showed up as a strange heat signature, wrapped tightly in layers of thick cloth and metal mesh. She stared at it for a moment, then she saw something else. A flicker of movement. Tiny fingers pressing against the fabric. A shape that looked like a small head shifting slowly. Eyes shut. Breathing slow but steady. Thalexa blinked. Her hands dropped to her sides. She turned to look at the human again. "What are you hiding from us?" she asked, voice quieter now. He looked up at her with tired eyes. Not hiding. Just protecting. Thalexa left the room, confused. Her duty said she should report him. Log the scan. Let the system decide. But deep inside her, something whispered that this wasn't a normal smuggler. This wasn't a crime. This was something else. And for the first time in many years, Alien Officer Thalexa felt doubt. She didn't know what was hidden under that jacket. But she was starting to think she might not want to find out too late. The scan that triggered panicked Thalexa stood just outside the interrogation room, her back pressed against the cold metal wall. Her mind raced. This was not how inspections were supposed to go. Something was wrong. And not just with the scan. It was the way the human behaved. Like he wasn't afraid for himself, only for what he carried. She looked through the observation window again. The human sat calmly in the chair, his hands still, cuffed. His hood had been pulled down now, revealing short brown hair and a scar running above his left brow. There was something strange about his expression. He wasn't angry, he wasn't scared, he just looked tired. Thalexa sighed and turned to her assistant, "Get the deep scan ready. No more guesses." The assistant nodded and typed in a code. The walls of the room started glowing with brighter blue light. A low humming filled the air as the deeper biological scan activated. This one wasn't just for weapons or tech. It could detect life forms, organs, and even trace DNA inside the room. The human looked up as the scan began. He didn't fight it, but his eyes shifted toward his side. The bulge again. Then it happened. The scan hit the bulge, and the entire scanner system glitched. Bright red lines appeared on the monitor. The system screamed with alerts. Then the lights exploded in sparks. The machine shut down with a hard clunk. Everyone inside and outside the room froze. Thalexa shouted, "What just happened?" The assistant looked pale. "The system can't identify the life form. It's not in any known species database." The human finally spoke, "Because she's not supposed to be alive." The door hissed open as Thalexa marched in again. Her boots echoed against the floor. She didn't wait. "What is she? Tell me now." The man slowly nodded and said, "You won't believe me. But I'll show you." With slow hands, still cuffed, he tilted his body and pulled up his jacket. Beneath it, wrapped in thick gray cloth and body straps, was something small, something breathing. It moved slowly, weakly. Then a hand pushed through the cloth. Not a human hand. 4 fingers, webbed at the base. Pale green skin. Claws dulled and chipped. It was shaking. Thalexa gasped. Not because of the shape, but because she recognized it. "No, that's impossible," she whispered. "That species. They were wiped out during the border massacres. Extinct." The human looked at her with steady eyes. Not extinct, just hunted. She was the only survivor. I found her inside a wrecked escape pod, barely alive. I couldn't let her die. Thalexa felt her heart pounding. The species was known for violence, for destroying colonies. They were feared, hated. The child in his arms was from that bloodline. "Do you understand what you've done?" she said. "Yes, I saved someone innocent." Thalexa turned away. She needed to think. Everything in her training told her this was wrong, illegal, dangerous. But then she heard something. A sound so soft it barely filled the air, a tiny broken whimper. The alien child had turned its head slightly. Its eyes opened just a little. Dark, silver eyes. Scared. Curious. But not evil. Just small. Thalexa had never seen those eyes except in military reports. But they were always on dead faces. Not this one. Not alive. She stepped forward slowly and crouched. Her fingers touched the edge of the fabric. The child didn't pull away. It blinked once, then let out a soft chirp. "What's her name?" Thalexa asked. The human smiled a little. "I call her Neva. She seems to like that." Thalexa stood up again and faced him fully. Her voice became colder again, but something behind her words had changed. You know harboring her could get you executed, right? No, the man answered. But I couldn't leave her in that wreck. Nobody else would have cared. Thalexa stared at him. For the first time, she realized this man wasn't a criminal. He was something much more dangerous in her world. He was kind. Before she could say more, the alarm blared through the corridor warning. Border Patrol arriving. Prepare for outside inspection. Her blood froze. If the Outer Patrol scanned this room, they'd find the child. And they wouldn't hesitate to kill her. Not ask questions. Thalexa turned to her assistant outside and shouted through the glass. Get this scan wiped now. Wipe all logs. And prepare a medical transfer shuttle. But, Commander, the assistant asked in shock. Do it, she ordered. She turned back to the human. You have 5 minutes. Hide her again. We'll move her under medical cover. But if anyone else sees her, I won't be able to protect either of you. The human nodded, fast and thankful. And just like that, the officer who once followed every rule broke her first one. She told herself it was just this once, just for a child. But deep down, Thalexa knew this was only the beginning. Locked in the interrogation room, the door slid shut behind Thalexa with a heavy metallic thump, locking the human and his secret inside. The chamber was cold, but the human sat calmly in the center, as if the air didn't bite at his skin. His jacket now hung open, the bundle hidden beneath it wrapped tight again. The alien child, Neva, had stopped moving. Her breathing was shallow, slow, like she was sleeping. Or trying to survive. Thalexa stood outside the glass window. Her arms folded, jaw clenched. She had just erased the scan logs from the system. No backup, no trace. If anyone found out, she could lose her badge. Or worse. But her mind couldn't stop circling back to the sound Neva had made. That small, innocent chirp. Not a predator, not a killer. Just a child her assistant Vexo approached, quietly behind her. Ma'am, we're still 10 minutes from patrol docking. If we want to transfer him off this ship, it must be now. No, she said sharply. Not yet. I need to know the full truth. She stepped back into the room. The human looked up again. His eyes met hers. Not afraid, not defensive, but steady. You lied to me before, she said. You told me she was the only one. Are you sure about that? He nodded once. I searched the whole wreckage. Everyone else was dead. She was buried under the rubble. I think the others protected her before the blast. Thalexa watched him closely. His hands rested near the cloth bundle, always ready to shield it. He had risked everything to carry this child across sectors. But why? What made him do it? You're not military, she said. Not medtech. Not a diplomat. So why would a human minor get involved in something like this? The human leaned back in the chair. His voice dropped. Because I used to be like everyone else, hating aliens, believing the stories. Until one saved my life. Thalexa raised an eyebrow. That's not in your file. It wouldn't be, he said. It was during a deep mine collapse on planet Yaren. An alien engineer, one of the old rebel species, pulled me out from a gas vent. Lost her own leg doing it. She didn't owe me anything, but she did it anyway. He paused, eyes looking distant. After that, I couldn't just stand by when I saw another innocent one dying. Thalexa felt something shift in her chest. His words were quiet, not emotional, not dramatic, just truth. She walked slowly around him, then stopped behind the chair. You know who she is, don't you? What her kind did in the war. I know what their leaders did, he said, but I also know kids don't choose where they're born. Thalexa said nothing. She looked down at the floor. trying to quiet the storm in her mind. Her orders were clear. Her training was strict. This child should be in containment, studied, dissected maybe. But her heart kept dragging her back to that tiny chirp, to the silver eyes that looked at her with no hate. Then something unexpected happened. A soft movement caught her attention from behind the human, near the shadows. A small shape peeked out Neva. She had pushed her tiny head out of the cloth. Her eyes were fully open now, glowing softly in the dim light. She looked around with fear, but also curiosity. Then her gaze met Thalexa's. They stared at each other in silence. The alien child blinked, then tilted her head slightly, just like a human toddler might. Her expression wasn't aggressive. It was gentle. Her little claws clutched at the cloth like a blanket. Thalexa took a slow step forward. Her instincts screamed at her to stop, but her feet kept moving. She knelt in front of the human. Neva didn't move away. She reached out one gloved hand. The human looked surprised but nodded gently. Thalexa placed her fingers near the child. Neva sniffed them first, then placed one tiny hand over her finger. Warmth spread through Thalexa's hand. Not just heat. Something more. A connection. Neva made a soft sound. Like a content, Thalexa stood quickly and backed away, her heart racing. "You're both insane," she said, voice shaking. The human smiled faintly. "Maybe. But we're still here." Before Thalexa could answer, the internal comm buzzed Border Patrol docking in 5 minutes. Her moment of silence was gone. Time was running out. She turned sharply. "Stay here. Don't move. Not a word." She exited the room and ordered her assistant to prepare the emergency medical pod. The fake documents had already been generated. Species, unknown infant. Condition, unstable. Transport, urgent off-world med station. She could feel the weight of every rule she was breaking. Every law. Every line. But when she glanced back through the glass at that small figure wrapped in cloth, with silver eyes watching the stars outside, she knew she'd already crossed that line long ago. The secret revealed, Thalexa moved quickly down the narrow corridors of the freighter, her boots tapping hard against the metal floor. She passed other crew members without a word. None of them dared stop her. Inside, her chest felt heavy. Her mind kept replaying that one moment when Neva touched her finger. So small, so soft, so alive. She had touched weapons, prisoners, corpses. But this was the first time she had touched something that made her feel like a person. Instead of just a soldier back near the medical bay, her assistant Vexo was finishing the fake transfer documents. He looked nervous, sweat on his forehead. "The scan's wiped, Commander. No logs, no alerts. But if patrol officers board and scan again, we can't stop it." Thalexa nodded. She knew. This was no longer just a risk. It was a choice. A dangerous one. She returned to the holding room. The human sat quietly, still guarding Neva like a knight watching over royalty. His back straight, his eyes sharp. But there was something else in him now. A quiet hope. She stepped forward and held out a folded chip card. "This will get you into the emergency pod bay. You'll be listed as medical escort. The child's species will be marked unknown." The human took it. Surprised. "You're really doing this?" "Don't make me regret it," Thalexa said, her voice still cold. But even she couldn't hide the softness in her eyes. He gave a nod of gratitude. Then, slowly, he pulled the cloth aside once more. Not for a scan or for defense, but to let her truly see. This time, Thalexa didn't flinch. Neva was awake now, fully. Her face was small, with soft features, thin ridges above her eyes, and faint, glowing patterns along her cheeks. She looked nothing like the monsters the old military reports described. Her skin was pale green with specks of starlight-like shimmer. She was breathing slow but calm. Her small hand gripped the human's shirt tightly. The Lexa took a cautious step closer. Neva blinked and looked up at her again. No growl, no scream, just soft curiosity. The human whispered, "I found her in a crater on Drenix 3. The pod was burning. Everyone else was gone. But she cried when I passed by. I couldn't ignore that sound. You know what she is." The Lexa said, her voice tight, "I know what the galaxy thinks she is. But she doesn't know that. She only knows I didn't leave her." Lexa crouched again, taking in every detail of the child. There was a scar on Neva's shoulder. Small, healed. She had been through something bad. Maybe something worse than any adult could survive. Yet she still looked up with innocent eyes. "She's bonding to you," Thalexa said quietly. "I think she already did," the man replied. "She won't sleep unless I'm near." Thalexa slowly reached into her belt pouch and took out a medical skin patch. She gently placed it over the child's neck, giving her a light nutrient boost. Neva made a soft sound and leaned toward her hand. The Lexa froze as the little alien nuzzled her palm for a moment. She felt it again. Warmth. Not just physical. Emotional. Deep. "You're doing something very stupid, human," she whispered. He smiled. "I know. But it's the only thing that felt right in years." The comms buzzed again, docking clamps engaged. Border Patrol officers boarding in 2 minutes. The Lexa stood, every muscle in her body tense. This was it. She turned to the human and said quickly, "Go now. Medical Bay 3. Use the pod I marked. It will launch in 30 seconds after entry. I'll delay the patrol with a weapons systems check." He stood, still holding Neva wrapped to his side. But before he left, he said, "What's your name?" Thalexa hesitated. Then, for the first time in years, she answered without rank Thalexa. "Thank you, Thalexa," he said softly. Then he ran, quiet and fast down the corridor with the child held close, disappearing toward the emergency pod bay. Thalexa took a long breath, then turned sharply toward the main deck. Patrol would be entering now. She needed to act like nothing had happened, like no forbidden life form had just passed through her hands. As she walked onto the bridge, the Border Patrol captain saluted. "Honor, tall, armored, strict inspection requested," Captain said. "We received a flagged scan report from this ship, but then the signal vanished." Thalexa narrowed her eyes. Must have been a glitch. Old scanner system. "We're running diagnostics now. Want to take a look?" The captain looked doubtful, but nodded as he and his team followed Thalexa toward the power core room, far away from Medical Bay 3. A small pod detached from the underbelly of the freighter inside IT. The human sat in silence, Neva asleep on his chest. He looked down at her, then out at the stars beyond the glass. Somewhere behind him, an alien officer had just changed everything. The child of a war criminal, the escape pod floated through the quiet dark of space, far from the patrol ships and freighter scanners. Inside, the human held Neva close, her small body tucked into his chest like a heartbeat wrapped in warmth. She slept peacefully now, her breathing soft and slow. The man finally relaxed a little as the stars passed silently beyond the glass. Her name was real now. Neva. Not just a name he gave in the moment, but one she responded to. One she trusted. One she lived through. But peace never lasted long. The pod's navigation AI beeped softly. It had locked onto a nearby medical station, Arkell Station 9, an old decommissioned facility floating near the edge of the Iran belt. It wasn't on many maps, probably why Thalexa had chosen it. Forgotten by the system. Safe for now. As the pod neared the landing dock, the man checked the ID band on his wrist. It read, Medical Escort Dr. Kellen Varn. A fake name, sure, but the lie kept her alive. He whispered down to Niva as the pod made contact with the platform. We're almost there. Just a little more. The door hissed open with a soft steam cloud and the cold air of the abandoned station poured in. Dim lights flickered as Kellen, his real name still unknown, stepped out slowly, keeping Niva hidden under his jacket again. The place was empty, rusted. Dust floated in the beams of broken lights. But the scanners still worked. The pods still connected. The med chambers still hummed. It was perfect. He placed her gently into one of the resting pods and set it to low oxygen. Healing cycle engaged. She stirred once, but didn't wake. He placed a hand on the glass, watching her small figure fade into deep rest. Just then, the station's old terminal lit up. A call was incoming. It was locked, but Alexa had marked it priority. Kellen pressed accept. Her voice came through immediately. No greeting, just business. Did you make it? We did, he said. She's in a healing pod now. Good. That station should stay dark for at least 3 cycles. No traffic. No scans. Don't use outgoing comms unless it's coded. He could hear her breath on the other end. Like she wasn't used to doing this. Breaking protocol. Helping fugitives. Protecting lives not listed in her orders. Why are you helping us? He asked suddenly. There was silence. Then Alexa said, I served in the last raids of the Iran war. I saw the monsters. I saw their destruction. But I also saw the leaders force their own people into war. Families. Children. No choice. Just targets. She paused again. And one day, I saw a baby's body in the rubble. No weapons. No claws. Just a child with a flower toy in her hand. I still remember the color green petals. Silver center. Kellen felt his throat tighten. He looked over at Niva again. She has a silver mark on her shoulder, like a flower bloom. Same pattern, he said quietly. Then maybe. Alexa stopped herself. Maybe this time I get to save one. The call ended. Kellen sat back, mind swirling. Alexa had never said what side she truly stood on, but he could tell now. She didn't believe in sides anymore, just right and wrong. But their safety wouldn't last long. 2 hours later, the terminal pinged again. But this time, it wasn't. Alexa, it was a tracking alert. Someone had traced the escape pod's launch signal. The encryption had cracked. A bounty notice had been placed on a missing specimen believed to be from the Harax lineage, an ancient bloodline of a now extinct alien species known for war crimes. Reward, 10,000 credits dead. 50,000 alive. Kellen stared at the screen. Niva wasn't just any survivor. She was a Harax child. A bloodline feared across the stars. Genetically marked. Hunted on sight. If anyone found her, they wouldn't ask questions. He turned off the screen, hands shaking. This wasn't over. It had barely begun. He opened Niva's pod. She blinked slowly, sensing the change. He held her again, tight. She was warmer now. Her strength was returning. She nuzzled into his chest, completely unaware that her very blood could start another war. I won't let them take you, he whispered. Even if they offer the whole galaxy far across the system. Alexa sat alone in her ship's cockpit, staring at a frozen report she hadn't submitted. Her fingers hovered over the command key. It would be so easy to turn it in, to clear her record, to forget. But instead, she deleted the file completely. She looked out at the stars. No one had saved that green-petaled child years ago, but maybe this one could still bloom. The escape plan. Kellen stood at the cracked window of Arkle Station 9, watching the stars shimmer like quiet fires across the black sky. Niva slept in a pod behind him, wrapped in the same gray cloth she'd been found in. He hadn't slept in almost a day. His mind raced too fast, too loud. He had no weapons, no allies, No backup. Only a child wanted dead by most of the galaxy, and a single alien officer who had risked everything to help him. The terminal buzzed again. One of the hidden alerts Alexa had coded for him. It wasn't a call. It was a warning. Patrol ship in system. Passive scan sweep detected. Docking probability 80%. Kellen moved fast. He locked the station's front access doors, rerouted power away from the main bay, and shut down all non-critical systems. Still, if they docked, they'd find them. No doubt. The pod signal might have been hidden, but not invisible. He walked to Neva's pod. Her eyes were open now, soft and wide. She didn't speak, not with words, but she clung to him tighter than ever. She could sense it too. Something was coming, I know, little one, he whispered. We're not safe here anymore. He checked the supplies. 2 days' worth of food, water, and one emergency launch pod left in the station's side hangar. Small, unarmed, no real stealth. But it was all he had. Kellen bent to lift Neva and heard a quiet voice from the terminal with Alexa. She was using the emergency code line. Voice only. They found your pod signature. They'll be there in 6 minutes. One ship, not military. Private bounty vessel. Fast. Light armor. No mercy. Kellen held back the fear rising in his chest. He knew what bounty hunters did to creatures like Neva. No one ever asked if the target deserved to die. They just saw bloodlines and price tags. What should I do? He asked. Silence crackled for a moment. Then Alexa said, There's a dead zone just beyond the station's orbit. If you reach it, the ship will lose tracking lock. Use Pod X7 in the station hangar. I've rerouted its signal through 3 old satellites. It'll give you 20 seconds of confusion on their end. 20 seconds wasn't much, but it might be enough. He rushed to the hangar. Neva gripped tightly in his arms. She was still calm. No tears. No panic. Just quiet trust. That made it harder. It meant she believed in him. Believed he'd protect her no matter what. He set her into the tiny seat beside his in the pod and strapped her in with careful hands. She made a soft chirp as her fingers touched his wrist. Her eyes glowed faintly again in the dark. Beautiful, alien, innocent as the pod powered up. Kellen looked around the dusty hangar one last time. So many ships had launched from here. Smugglers. Fugitives. Maybe even heroes. Now it was his turn. He activated the launch. The pod burst from the station's hangar just as the bounty ship entered visual range. Red lights flared from its nose. Scanners spun wildly. For a moment, it locked on, then the signal broke. Alexa's trick worked. Inside the pod, Kellen felt the jolt as gravity shifted. He steered hard toward the dead zone. An old patch of interference created by broken satellites. Clouds of metal and radiation warped signals there. Most ships avoided it. Kellen drove straight in behind him. The bounty ship tried to chase, but the moment it entered the outer edge of the zone, its scanner blanked. The ship stalled for just a second. Enough for Kellen to dive the pod into the core of the debris field. Metal screamed across the pod's outer hull. Sparks flew. He held Neva close as alarms blared in red. But they made it. They passed through. They were gone from the radar. Kellen dropped the pod into sleep mode. No signals. No pulses. Just floating wreckage and silence. It would take hours for the hunters to guess where he'd gone. For now, they were safe. He slumped, back in his seat, sweat pouring down his face. Neva leaned her small head against his arm. Her breath was calm again. Her eyes slowly closed. You're safe, he whispered. For now. A soft ping lit up the comms. Alexa again. One final message. You bought time, but not forever. I'm leaving something in your path. Coordinates embedded. Use it only if all hope fails. And Take care of her. Kellen closed his eyes and smiled slightly. She had no reason to help. No reward. No duty. But she still did. Maybe the galaxy wasn't so broken after all. He looked down at Neva, her tiny hand now wrapped around his finger, again. The child of a species the universe had tried to erase, now carried through the stars by the last person anyone expected. And in that silence, drifting in space, a new future began. A new oath. The pod drifted silently in the debris field, cloaked in dead signals and shattered satellites. Kellen hadn't moved for hours. Neither had Niva. Her small body still rested against his chest, and her little hand gripped his shirt with quiet strength. She had fallen asleep again, trusting the man who had crossed borders, laws, and logic to keep her alive. Kellen's body was stiff, his muscles aching, but his eyes remained sharp. The moment he let his guard down, the universe would take her away. He replayed Thalexa's final message in his mind. Use it only if all hope fails. The embedded coordinates sat locked in the pod's nav chip. He hadn't checked them yet. He didn't want to. It felt like breaking the last emergency glass. But hope was running thin. The food packs were gone. Power was low. And he had no idea how far the bounty hunters had chased them before giving up. With a quiet breath, he looked down at Neva. Guess we better see what she left us. He unlocked the coordinates. The screen flashed. A small moon near the fringe of an uncharted system. Nothing special. No stations. No traffic. But hidden inside the file was a message fragment from Thalexa. A personal one. It's not much. Just an old bunker from the war. My old command post. No one remembers it anymore. No scanners. No drones. You'll be ghosts there. She can grow up in peace. Kellen blinked slowly. He hadn't cried since he was 15. Not after everything. But now, something warm welled in his chest. Not from fear. From something close to relief. He activated the pod thrusters and set course. It took hours to reach the moon. The journey was slow, the pod weak and tired, like its passengers. But when they reached orbit, he saw it. An old military structure buried under jagged rock and shadow, covered by time and ash, forgotten by war and memory. They landed rough but safely. As the pod opened, thick gray air swirled around them. The wind was cold, but it carried no danger. Kellen stepped out with Neva still in his arms. She woke and looked up at the gray sky. Her eyes shimmered like silver stars. They entered the old bunker. The lights flickered to life, powered by emergency solar backups. The rooms were dusty but intact. Old supply lockers still held food, water, blankets. Even a medkit designed for alien species Thalexa had left more than a place. She had left a second chance. That night, Kellen sat beside a small heater with Neva wrapped in a warm cloth. He read, aloud from an old datapad he found. Basic language guides. She listened, mimicking some sounds with chirps and tilts of her head. Her favorite word so far was safe. Every time he said it, she chirped back. He smiled as she rested again. The moon outside stayed quiet. No ships. No patrols. Just silence. A silence he could finally trust fare away. Thalexa sat in her private quarters, looking at an empty screen. No updates. No signals. She didn't need any. She knew they had made it. Her hands rested over her badge. The symbol of a system she had served for years, a system that now would not understand her choices. She took the badge off slowly and placed it on the table. Tomorrow she would resign, let them believe what they wanted. That she went rogue. That she helped a smuggler. That she lost her mind. None of it mattered. What mattered was that one child lived, and maybe that one child would grow up to break the cycle of hate. Back on the moon, Kellen stood beneath the stars. He looked up, holding Neva gently against his side. Her eyes were half closed, still glowing faintly. "You're safe now," he whispered. She reached up and touched his chin, then made a small sound. Something new. Not fear. Not hunger. A word maybe. A name. Her voice was soft, unformed, but clear. Kalenhi froze. That was the first time she had ever spoken. His name. In her own way. He knelt and hugged her tighter, tears finally falling. Quiet. Unnoticed by the stars from this forgotten moon, an oath was born he would raise her, protect her, teach her to live, not hide. And if one day the galaxy came again, with fire and fear, he would stand in front of her like a wall of flesh and steel, because she wasn't just a secret anymore. She was his daughter. Not by blood, but by choice, by everything that truly mattered. And in the stars above them, somewhere beyond sound and space, a single alien officer smiled without knowing why, because sometimes the galaxy doesn't need a hero. It just needs one person to care. So,